they're so busy, they're running around, work and family and, some activity and friend, all these other things tend to kind of dominate. Whereas romantic relationship tends to fall to the side. So, one wants to make a habit out of relating. And, for us, start first thing in the day. You're already in bed. That's the trigger, right? You're in bed. That's the trigger, right? Like, I'm ready to go in the morning.
Move towards each other, right? Don't just hop right out of bed. You're right there with each other. Practice sensuality.
Let's learn how our next guest gets up, dress up, and show up on purpose. Enjoy the episode. Hello, morning enthusiasts. Welcome to the Best Morning Routine Ever podcast. I am your host, Lunid Lewis, and today I have the honor of introducing a very special guest to the show, not just one, but two. Today, I have with me Alicia and Erwan Davon, and they are the experts. They are the go-to for relationship matters. They have successfully taught over 12,000 singles and couples on how to have exceptional relationships. They have become the go-to. And because of that, they have built a network around them and showing individuals how to take their relationships to higher heights for intimacy, relationships. So I'm excited to have them on here. It's an honor to have both on the platform today. So with no further ado, Alicia, Erwan, welcome to the show.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good to be here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. So go ahead and tell us a little bit about how this became, a little bit about your journey here so far.
It started the journey of what we do, supporting people and having exceptional relationships, really started after I graduated with a degree in psychology, and I'd been teaching for the world's largest transformational organization as a kind of side thing, and lived in a Zen monastery for a while, lived in a yoga ashram for a while. I was in that whole transformational world. And I was at a cafe in San Francisco, Muddy's Cafe. I was sitting down at a table, very caffeinated, and looking at what am I going to do with my life? And I took out a piece of paper and I started to do a free write on what am I the most interested in. What I wrote right at the top of the list was women, and it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And that's how I got into this. And Alicia came over about 8 years after that. And now she took everything over, took me over and took everything over. And, and our morning routine. I love the topic of your show, Lunid, and I love that you're a habit psychologist. That's awesome. Yes. We have a very strong habit in place each morning. We'll probably get into that. It's a pretty sexy habit.
Yes, it's a very sexy habit. And about my background and how I got into this, I love that the focus of this podcast is habits and routines, because I was in my early 20s and studying psychology and getting my master's degree and planning to be a therapist and stuff. And I would have these cool experiences like in class or at another class or something, but I really wanted to live all of these cool openings. And I remember when I first went over to Erwan's and he was teaching a group, it was the first time I met him. I saw it was like this room full of people and their faces were glowing and their smiles were huge on their faces. And they were learning all this stuff about romance and intimacy, but actually like practicing it together and living it. And that's what really got me.
Yeah, no, that's phenomenal. That's a great story. So we all have the psychology background. So we know how to actually get people to make the necessary changes. And for intimacy, it's not something that's taught, right? So tell us about how, it's taboo, and even some cultures, right? Because I'm from Haiti, and we're not to talk about sex. We're not to talk about that loving kindness towards one another, because it's taboo. So how do you overcome that perception?
It's a great question. The first thing is to realize there's a problem. Right. And if most people are honest about their dating life and their romantic life, unfortunately, they're going to say, wow, there's a problem here. Whether that problem is they've been in a relationship and the sex has petered out after the honeymoon, or like most marriages, they've gotten divorced, or maybe somebody's single and they're having trouble getting in a relationship, or they keep producing the same undesired result in relationship, to see that there is a lack of skill. And you're right, people are not taught this, and it's arguably the most difficult thing in the world we'll ever do. So acknowledging that, telling the truth about it, kind of gets things started. Then from there, one can train in it, just like we can train in tennis, just like we can learn psychology, just like we can learn computer programming. We can learn how to relate. And, that's largely what psychology is about. And then the sensual, sexual part, even in psychology, is barely addressed. It's a very unexplored territory. So back in about 1990 is when I started researching, before I was teaching. And I had a large number, I had a very wild sex life, a lot of partners, this kind of thing. I was in college. I had a girlfriend who liked girls also. So it was a whole, it was a real party. Let's just put it that way. And so I did a lot of research and a lot of experimenting, and took all different kinds of classes and had all different kinds of partners for touching exercises and things. And I learned a lot of things: how to touch, how to flirt, what is orgasm, what makes a relationship work and what doesn't make a relationship work. So training in it, acknowledging the breakdown, then training in it. And then once you've got those two pieces, you can go to what we call lifestyle design. That's why I love that you're a habit psychologist, because having it as part of your day is important. Even some people who know the information, they're so busy, they're running around, work and family and, some activity and friend, all these other things tend to kind of dominate. Whereas romantic relationship tends to fall to the side. So, one wants to make a habit out of relating. And, for us, start first thing in the day. You're already in bed. That's the trigger, right? You're in bed. That's the trigger. Right? Like, I'm ready to go in the morning.
Move towards each other, right? Don't just hop right out of bed. You're right there with each other. Practice sensuality.
So that's building the action.
That intimacy. Building that intimacy, being intentional about it is what I'm hearing from both of you, right? Be intentional about your behaviors and your action towards it, that you both want to build it and actually practice it.
Yes. And have it as a daily habit, because something you do daily, you're good at something you do daily, and that's our experience is that's the easiest type of habit to have. It's easier than a weekly habit because it's just part of your day. If you want to be an alcoholic, you got to drink every day, so, same thing with everything. That's a joke.
You develop the habit for sure, because we make our habits first and then our habits make us, where it becomes automatic, autopilot, where we don't have to think about it and it becomes ingrained. That's what we do. And so I love you touched on the intimacy piece of it, because a lot of it can stem from childhood. A lot of it can be from lack of affection, from lack of cuddling, from lack or being on a nipple too long, or lack of. All that is something that triggers rejection in a child, in infancy, very early on, and then makes this conclusion that they're not enough and they're not worthy. And then that transcends in adult relationships.
That's right. We call that a person's relationship pattern. And, my mother left when I was 7. So, my relationship world got really disoriented. And I had obsessive compulsive disorder when I was 15 in high school, very seriously. I was in therapy twice a week for 5 years as a teenager. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because all of these difficult things that happen, they can become assets, because they forced me to deal with it. If I didn't have all that trauma, then I never would have dealt with it. So, anything can be turned into good in the light of consciousness and being, if you're spiritual in the light of spirit, however that goes, anything can be really turned to good if we do confront what's going on.
I was working with a couple last night, and they've been living together forever. They're not married yet, but they're basically committed for life. And they came into the coaching because they weren't having sex very much, or if at all. And digging into their lifestyle, one big thing that was going on is she's an attorney. She spends all day kind of living in her head, and maybe hopefully her heart a little bit, but certainly in her head, she's not interested in being turned on at work. She rushes home, and then she's just trying to get everything done and go to bed. And so what they realized last night was that he gets home early, and he's like, oh, I could make a habit out of, dimming the lights and drawing her a bath and like complimenting her and like starting to turn her on, so she gets to transition out of the work in the head into her body.
Yeah, that's part of you got to keep dating, right? Because when kids come around, kids get in the picture, life happens, work happens, then we just, as you mentioned, you alluded to earlier, that it gets too busy, so we don't have the time. So we got to keep dating. So tell us a little bit about the eternal date concept.
So an eternal date is a relationship that gets better and better over time in terms of love and intimacy and attraction to each other and sexuality. So it doesn't kind of peter out at the honeymoon period and become about logistics. It gets more and more turned on. We were doing our sensuality practice this morning, our morning habit, if you will, our morning routine. And our make out and sex this morning is the best ever. And we've been together for almost 2 decades. So the eternal date I love that you use the word dating. We've been together almost 2 decades. We're still dating to, keep that fresh fun going. We went to a party at over the weekend in Golden Gate Park, and, there's like, I don't know, 20,000 people there, and they're like 20 years younger than us, but like we're out there,
we're rocking out, wearing sunglasses. We all look 22.
So an eternal date is, there's 12 skills we say are needed in a relationship. An eternal date is where you learn all those skills. The dating skills is one category. The boyfriend, girlfriend skills is another category, sort of the middle game of relationship skills. And then the committed skills is another set. And you learn all of them, and you accumulate them, and then you practice them daily. And a habit or a morning routine is part of that. We do our extended orgasm practice in the morning. We do some touching practice with each other. For somebody who's dating and wants to get into an eternal date, the practice we recommend for our students who are in that position is that they have a habit of socializing. The number one mistake people make who are single is they don't socialize enough. Like when people are in college, they get into all kinds of relationships because they're around people, they're socializing. So for singles, the first habit we put in place is socializing. For couples, it's the touching practices, and an eternal date is all that kind of stuff, plus all kinds of vulnerability, communication stuff, plus all kinds of commitment and cherishing stuff. And something spiritual, whether the person is, Buddhist or Muslim or Christian or New Age or agnostic or whatever, to have some kind of meditation practice, something to really get centered in oneself. That's why weddings, for example, are officiated by a priest or a rabbi or something, kind of propels the relationship into that sphere.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an eternal date.
Yes.
I actually heard, I recently got married, and the pastor who we did a counseling session before getting married. And one of the things that he said blew my mind is praying together heightens your sex life. So when you talk about this sexuality piece of it, and then getting spiritual on that level, it was interesting to hear, and to have you confirm it was like, okay, there's some truth to that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because when you're present and you're connected, the turn on is there. It's there. The biggest reason that couples come to us is decreased chemistry. And what they find through working with us, one of the things they find is there's nothing wrong with their bodies. It's not that their bodies don't have chemistry. It's more that they forgot to pay attention and be with each other as well as feel their bodies.
Yeah. How do we bring that back? I know you talk about the touching. So enlighten us in how that takes place.
Yeah. So one of the practices are the touching practices. For example, Alicia's laying down. I put my hand on her heart, my hand on her abdomen. We just get connected. There's contact, physical contact, and then I can start rubbing my hands on her butt. Rubbing is wrong word, like stroking, like rubbing you, stroking my hands on her butt. So that's kind of makes it more sensual and sexual. And there's 12 of those touching practices, but that's an example. Now, another practice that relates to what we were just talking about, bringing in the consciousness or the spirit, is to include all parts of oneself. And this is a practice that if your listeners are single, they can do by themselves, or a couple can do together. So everybody knows that we have a head center. Everybody knows we have a heart center. Everybody knows we have a belly or a body center. But we also have a sex center, or sometimes we call it a vital center. And they're kind of stacked on top of each other. Sex center, body center, heart center, head center. So if we are conscious in all of our parts, each part transmits a different dimension of life, a different flavor of life. The head is for knowledge and understanding and seeing. It's got a very transcendent feeling when it's open. The heart is feeling. It's got a very loving, inclusive feeling when it's open. The body is for sensing. It orients us in the world. It brings presence and like we're here. It's like here-ness, presence. And the sex center brings enjoyment. It brings a type of electrical charge. It's like a magical energy. It's like the fuel that gets everything else really rolling. And it's the center that's the most left out. So one of our practices that we train singles and couples in is a circulation of energy practice through all of those centers. So they're in contact with all parts of themselves. And when we're in contact with all parts of ourselves, getting close to that's what Alicia meant when she said our bodies already work correctly if we're in them, in all our parts. So that's a practice for singles and couples. The touching practice is great for couples, or a single can learn it. And then if they're on a date with somebody, say, hey, I learned these touching practices, and do it with that person. They can be done non-sexually. They can be done sensually. They can be done sexually and taken all the way to clitoral stroking and extended orgasm. That's one of our specialties. So there's a couple of practices.
Yeah, and steer me in here. Okay.
I know.
Told you it could get uncomfortable. I'm from a country where we don't talk about this stuff. But it's necessary, and I like that you brought in the different centers, because I didn't think about the sexual center. The struggle can be to keep them all open and balance all four of them. And how can we do that effectively?
Well, the best way to do it is to practice every day. So making them habits, having these practices, whether it's meditation or, we call psychological inquiry, a practice where you're really looking into, oh, wow, I feel this way and what's going on with me, or body practice where you're feeling into your body. Maybe it's exercise. Maybe it's just a peaceful walk through your backyard with your bare feet in the grass. And then sensual practice, which, like Erwan was saying, you can practice with yourself if you're single. You can practice with a partner if you're in a relationship. So having those practices scheduled into your life, it doesn't have to take that long every day, but touching them regularly, that's how they show up in your life. The more time you spend there, the more you're going to experience them.
And you don't need to conquer Rome in a day. Two of our most popular programs are Mastery of Relationship. It's a weekly group coaching program, and the Pleasure course, which is more of like a weekend workshop. Right now, they're both online, but we do them online and offline. And in those programs, we teach people a set of exercises called their sensuality exercises. And the sensuality exercises have 4 parts. The first part is just setting up the environment for all of your senses. right? You may have done that. A lot of people have done that, and it makes a world of difference. You have a little incense, you have a beautiful candle to look at, you've got some great music on, something mellow like that, something for tactile, like, a furry blanket or something very silky or satiny or something like that. And when you're engulfed in that sensual environment, the body relaxes and turns on. It's kind of a sensual meditation. So there's other practices. And the reason I emphasize that one is because you don't conquer Rome in a day. It's like that could be the practice for that day. You do 10 minutes and you put some rose petals in the bathtub and it's a different day after you do that.
Yeah, and the environment is crucial in setting up habits as well. You got to prime your environment for success. Literally, you got to set the mood. You got to dim the light, or even for the habit of going for a run in the morning, is you got to put your shoes out the night before, just so you know when you wake up, that's the action you're going to execute on. So I can totally see the correlation with habit building in what you both do. So it's fascinating, and I want to point out one thing about self-care and self-love, right? Because we can't focus on, especially for singles, to wait for someone else to make us whole, for someone else to make us happy. So someone got to come in and compliment us, not complete us. So how do singles, how can they handle that and deal with that?
And learning the habit of complimenting people.
The habit of finding self-love, so that you are not waiting for someone else to make you
yes happy. Okay, yes. And that's where psychology is necessary, and we call what works to resolve that is what we call psychological inquiry. There's 4 practices we recommend every day: meditation, psychological inquiry, body practice like exercise, and and sensual practice. Psychological inquiry is diving into oneself psychologically. Where am I at? How am I feeling? What's going on? Oh, I feel really sad. Ooh, if I feel into that sadness, wow, I feel really empty. Ooh, if I feel into that emptiness, like, oh, I have all these memories and like that. Ooh, and now that that's kind of coming out, I feel sort of freed up and lighter. And a person learns to do that kind of self-analysis, if you will, in a very somatic, bodily felt way. And what that does is it releases, or at least distinguishes, what we call a person's relationship blueprint or their psychology, which is the relationship blueprint is what blocks the love, because the love is already there. People already care that their life goes well. They already love themselves. But there's so much stuff that goes on psychologically, it blocks that experience. So the psychological inquiry releases the relationship blueprint, the love that is already there, that really is what everything is made of. That's released, and that includes the self-love.
Well, and if you think of an example, for example, a single person might be interacting with somebody on text that they met on a dating app or something like that. And a very common situation, of course, is like you're texting or you're messaging and then the person stops responding, ghosting. Okay. And that can become a whole world of psychology to explore. What a lot of people do is, they get ghosted, or the person hasn't texted and they're like, oh my gosh, they're a bad person. I'm a bad person. Right. Screw this dating thing. And, we go off into our tailspin. But using psychological inquiry in that moment of like, oh, wow, like I'm triggered. I haven't heard back from this person, or they disappeared. What is this bringing up? And oh, wow, like my heart, it feels kind of cold, but really big actually. And I really want a relationship. I feel that. And it just can lead you down different paths versus kind of the same mind path that we tend to go down.
Yeah, listening to your psychology, listening to the dialogue that's happening in your inside, right? Because you're listening. And I like to say, be careful what you say to yourself, because you are listening, and you can drive yourself mad.
That's true.
I'd love to go. I would love to get into your morning routine. Tell us about, how do you get up, dress up, and show up?
Well, like Erwan said, we start our morning in a really fun, sexy way. So some mornings, I get up first, take care of some things with our son and maybe exercise and stuff. But I come back down and I get back into bed with Erwan if I wasn't there already. And then we do our sensual practice
Mhm.
every single morning. And it usually starts with, Erwan's kind of still snoozing. I'm more of a morning person. So I'll sit up by his side. He's laying on his back. I'll put one hand on his heart and one hand on his abdomen. And we just breathe and like connect. And then we usually within 5 or 10 minutes, then transition into more of a sensual practice. So we have a extended orgasm practice, which involves clitoral stroking. Maybe there's some other sex acts thrown in there too. And after, anywhere from like 30 to 60 minutes, we're ready for the day. Bright and shiny, glowy and pleasured.
Yeah, it starts the day in a really bright way. And then we meditate after that. And, what I've noticed is a day that we do that, which is most days, there's every once in a while we can't because we're catching a plane or something. But the day is completely different after the sensual practice and the meditation. It's like somebody turned the lights on in the day is brighter, more open, the body, the energy turned on. It's, it makes all the difference, especially because we start our day that way.
So that is your morning routine. That's part of your morning routine.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, some things have to get sacrificed to do that. We can't start work as early, other kinds of things. And I think that's an important part of habits is, if we're going to put certain habits in place because relationship or whatever else is really important to us, something has got to go. Yeah. So I think that's often the most difficult part for people. So we recommend our students make a list that like, what are you doing that's less important than if you're single going out and socializing, or if you're in a couple doing some touching practices or learning about them.
So you start with pleasure right off the bat.
Oh yeah, pleasure first.
Yes. Yeah, pleasure is natural.
That's fascinating. And then, so Alicia, you actually are working out, because I'm a morning person as well. So you actually are getting up, you're working out, you're taking care of your the kids, and then you get into the other aspect of the morning routine.
Yeah, it depends on the day. Sometimes we'll just start right with the sensual practice. Sometimes it's like half hour into the day.
That's cool. Okay, what about you, or Erwan? Are you doing any other? So you do meditation. What about working out? What about other activities to kind of prime you for the busy day? Because you're both, you're on your own businesses, and yes, you have time freedom, but you still got to show up for your clients.
Yeah, and there's 4 practices, or we could say 4 habits that we do daily, and we recommend our students do daily. The meditation and the sensual practice are in the morning. And we've tried them at different times, and the morning is just by far when they have the biggest impact.
Something powerful about the morning.
Yeah,
right.
The subconscious mind is alert and aware and awake, so you are susceptible. Your suggestions are easier to receive. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. The morning has that kind of power to it. And then the other 2 practices are the psychological inquiry and the body practice. For body practice, which is, it's like exercise, but it's more than exercise. It's really being in your body and feeling your body. It's not going for a run with headphones on or jogging on a treadmill looking at a screen. It's really feeling one's body. So, I have yoga supplies out in this very room, kind of all over the room. So throughout the day, I do about an hour of yoga, 15 minutes here, maybe 45 minutes there, that kind of thing. That's just really incorporated into my day. We work from home, so it's very easy to do. Take little breaks and do that. And then the psychological inquiry we do together 3 times a week. We have set times in the evening to do that. And then on the other days, I'm doing it either with a friend of mine who we get on Zoom and do it together, or I just do it independently. And that's very broad. Some days that might look like making a collage. I might have a certain feeling and what's going on? I don't know what's going on. So I'll make a collage. It can, or write a poem, or it can be more like official inquiring and talking to somebody kind of thing. But any kind of inner investigation is psychological inquiry.
The psychological inquiry is crucial. It's pivotal because it sounds like it allows you to connect. That's building intimacy, right? Bringing us back full circle. Building intimacy is connecting, is communicating, is feeling your own body, but other people, the other person, the partner. And so that's the phase you get into once you hit commitment. You got to keep the intimacy alive. And
Mhm.
I absolutely believe in the inquiry piece of it, because my husband and I, it was his idea. He's the genius behind this. We started doing relationship check-in once a month.
Uh-huh.
What that entails is, what are you doing well? What do I like about what you're doing, and what can we improve on? And then we kind of rotate those questions back and forth, and we do this for about 40 minutes on once a month. And I have to tell you, this is the time where we kind of come out stronger. We come out closer together, because we hash out things to improve on, but things that went wrong in the last few weeks. So it's powerful.
It's very powerful. In Mastery of Relationship, our Wednesday evening program, we do psychological inquiry every session. People go to breakout rooms, they inquire into whatever the topic is. We start with guided meditation, then we do the topic, then they inquire into the topic with each other in breakout rooms. Then we do question and answer, and we do further inquiry and guidance. So it's extremely important. And it's something, in a lot of workshops or transformational work or what have you, the psychology is left out. And it's very important. We have our students do it daily, and then do it in a more official group setting in Mastery of Relationship every Wednesday.
I love what you're doing. You're bringing it to light. You're being intentional about it, and people are getting phenomenal results. I saw some of the reviews. So tell us, how can we connect with you? Where can we find you?
So for those of you listening that are interested in learning more about working with Erwan and me, I'm offering a free love life consultation. So what that is it's some one-on-one time with me over Zoom, and we'll get personal. You can tell me all about what's going on with you and your relationship life, challenges or goals or questions. And then if it looks like Erwan and I can support you further, I'll lay out all the different ways we work with people. Like Erwan said, our most popular class is Mastery of Relationship. It's super fun. And we do coaching, and we have the pleasure course and all sorts of options. So the best way to set that love life consultation up is to text our school. I'll say the number now, and then I'll also give it to you, Lunid, for the show notes. The number is 415-308-9580. That's 415-308-9580. And I'll also give you a link if people prefer to click a link to set it up. And then everybody who sets up a consultation, I'll also give you a video, the 5 keys to a successful relationship. So it lays out some of these practices and all the steps that we take people through for relationship, whether you're single or in a relationship.
Great. Yeah, that is a great, that's a journey. You can take the first step toward building more intimacy, not just with your partner, but if you're single, with yourself, so that you can actually find someone that does complement you, because you don't bring baggage. You don't want to bring baggage to the relationship.
Travel light.
I like to tell my husband, I don't have baggages. I only have a carry-on. I don't no baggage.
It's great.
It's been an honor talking to you both, Erwan and Alicia. It's been amazing. Thank you for your time and energy. And can't really sum it up, but it's really being intentional and slowing down with your relationship, your intimacy piece of it, and seeking you both out to help with that. So if any last advice you want to give the couples out there, please do share.
Just to ride on the coattails of what you're saying, Lunid, it makes all the difference in the world to get support in relationship. And I thank my lucky stars I did. And we really love supporting people. So it's been an absolute pleasure being with you. You're awesome.
Yes.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Please comment and tell us what was your favorite part, your favorite habit that you are going to try out for yourself today. Comment below. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, I will see you at the top of your best morning routine ever. Stay blessed.